Hi, thank you for joining me. My name is John Clay, Director of Global Threat Communications here at Trend Micro, and we wanted to give you a quick update on this ransomware healthcare alert that has occurred. CISA has issued an alert for ransomware activity targeting the healthcare and public health sector. So hospitals in the U.S. are being targeted with the ransomware actors, specifically around Ryuk using TrickBot. But I wanted to give you some information about what we're seeing with ransomware actors and their tactics, as well as give you some best practices on how to prevent the ransomware from targeting your organization. When we look at the industry breakdown from first half, you can see healthcare definitely was targeted. They were number two on the list of who is being targeted, industries being targeted. Number two after government. So definitely being targeted there. But this new alert came because there's an active threat against hospitals, and we wanted to give you some better information. Where attackers prey upon. This is a good information that came from the Verizon DBIR back in 2019, and it came from this Secret Service who interviewed criminals that they had arrested and how they had attacked organizations. And it really helps or you understand how these actors are targeting you, because it's still very relevant. They're still utilizing these same tactics. First and foremost, they're going to prey upon human error. They're going to target your employees. They're going to target error of your administrators that have done errors in configuring or setting things up, but mostly errors for your employees. Getting a phishing email and not realizing it and clicking on the link or clicking on an attachment that could infect that system and give them access to your network. The second one is IT security complacency. You can see that they're utilizing vulnerabilities and exploits on a regular basis. If you're not patching on a regular basis, if you're not updating on your software on a regular basis, those kind of complacencies can cause problems for an organization. And last, technical deficiencies. Do I have the latest and greatest software? Have I enabled all the latest technologies that are available to me? So technical deficiencies around the organization. But the key point that they made, and this comment was interesting, is it is when multiple TTPs are utilized in concert that cyber criminals are able to gain and maintain access to a computer network. So if they're going to utilize multiple of these to try and get into your organization. So take care of those and look at those and try and prevent these from happening. So how are ransomware attacks changing? First and foremost, they're being much more targeted in their approach today. They are, just like we're seeing now, they are targeting hospitals and only hospitals. They're going to target those. They're going to target government agencies. They're going to target retail outlets. But in this case, they are targeting hospitals. They will do their due diligence. They will find out which hospitals you are, what you're running, what systems you're running. Are you actively dealing with COVID? If you have high hospitalization rate for your hospitals, they're going to target you because now you are in a crisis mode dealing with COVID. So if they can compromise your systems and take those offline, you are more likely to pay them a high ransom. Who they're targeting: high value, high quality targets. Again, hospitals fall into this category. They're very high value, very high quality organizations to target. They are much more likely to pay a ransom because they need to get systems back online very, very quickly. North-south is how we've protected mostly in the past, but in most infections today, when they come into your organization, they come through an employee's system. They're not going to ransom that system. They don't care about that system. They only care about that system to laterally move east and west and laterally move across your network to find systems that they want to target. They will manually now drop ransomware on systems. So they'll compromise credentials of administrative credentials, and that allows them, or RDP credentials, so that they can then drop the malware on those systems directly. The other thing we're seeing now is a pay or publish scheme. So they're going to do two attempts to extort you as a victim. They will first and foremost, once they get in, they will steal data and exfiltrate that data to themselves. Then they will kick off the encryption process using the ransomware malware. Once they encrypt it, They will then give you the ransom note and request payment. If you don't pay the ransom for the encryption side, they will come back and say, hey, we will pay us X amount of money, or we will publish the data that we stole from you. So they're doing a double whammy against most organizations. And then they are also using a lot of tools. A lot of the tools you're already using inside your organization, they will utilize those same tools to propagate or infect systems, propagate ransomware, et cetera. And those tools are being used because they want to hide under the radar. They want to live off the land, so to speak, inside your network, because they know you're using these same tools. So be careful of the tools, monitor those tools, make sure they're being used only by your organization and used in a way that you should be using it. The target selection, as I mentioned, all of these industries are being targeted, but specifically today we're talking about hospitals. They're going to go after the critical systems inside those hospitals. They're going to look for the systems that are running the day-to-day operations, that are dealing with the infections that are happening in the hospitals, the beds that are being utilized. And all of those systems that are being used in the hospitals today, they're going to target to try and bring down. They may even do destructive attacks where they'll target and destroy those systems so that they can't come back online anymore. If you don't pay, they will say, hey, we will destroy it if you don't pay us. So that's what they're going to be targeting. Now, I also wanted to highlight some tech support insights. This comes from our tech support organization, who is receiving calls from customers and prospects that are infected already. They have a ransomware infection, and here's some reasons why that we found after investigating, doing root cause analysis of why those infections occurred. First and foremost, compromised administrative credentials. They are targeting your domain controllers. They are targeting your administrative credentials, no question about it. They use brute force, they'll use password spraying, do anything that they can possibly do to obtain those administrative credentials. And they are going to target your domain controllers for sure. The zero logon vulnerability is being utilized now by the Riot Gang. They are trying to utilize it to get access to those domain controllers. The other area that you want to be concerned about is your security software administrative controls. They are also targeting those admins as well, because if they can get access to the security console, they can then turn off the agents. And you can look at the second one here. Devices found without security agents are usually the cause of the infection. We find out that the initial infection hits these systems that don't have a security agent running on them. Now, it could be because they've turned it off, but they also could be that you just didn't realize that system didn't have the agent running on it. So you want to look for those systems, do an analysis, do an audit of your systems, and make sure that there is security software running on them, whether they're PCs, Macs, or even, and especially your servers. The security software is not updated. It's not at the latest version. It doesn't have the latest and greatest patches running. You want to make sure that those are running, those are updated as needed. We see regularly when a customer comes to us and says they've got infected, they're 2 or 3 versions back on the endpoint solution that they should be. So make sure you're running the latest and greatest security version of your endpoint security, your server software from your vendor. And then last, disabled advanced detection technologies. So there are new technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, et cetera, behavior monitoring. All of these are very good at proactively detecting the new malware, ransomware families, but they have to be enabled. If you don't have them enabled, they aren't going to be effective. So check your best practices, contact your security vendor, make sure you have these things enabled and are running inside your organization. I wanted to highlight a few notable ransomware families. First, Maze. Maze is one that's being utilized a lot. You can see how it arrives in malicious spam, fake cryptocurrency websites, exploit kits, how it can propagate compromised software, compromised frameworks like PowerShell. They are definitely using PowerShell today, and it's utilized a lot in these, especially in this, especially with Ryuk as well. Other malware variants are being used. They exfiltrate files before encrypting machines and network shares. The Dharma or Crisis ransomware, they use malicious spam, but they use brute force remote desktop. So they are buying RDP credentials that have been stolen from organizations out there in the world and sold on the underground. They're doing brute force attacks against RDP. And they were manually installing this software on the servers. Ryuk, which is the one we're talking about, they use malicious spam. They use phishing emails to target your employees. So make sure you talk to your employees about that. They use compromised routers as CNC command and control infrastructure. They utilize TrickBot. They utilize Emotet. They utilize Eternal Blue. They're utilizing now zero logon as well, and they can render infected systems unbootable if you don't pay the ransom. Now, last but not least, best practices. Regularly back up your files. If you can back up properly using this 3-2-1 rule by creating 3 backups, 2 different formats, and 1 stored off site, you'll be able to rebuild those systems quickly. That'll allow you not have to pay the ransom. 2, keep your programs and operating systems updated. Regularly patch, especially your domain controllers right now for zero logon. Make sure that patch is on there and enabled. If you can't do that right away, look at virtual patching. We can virtually patch those systems in many ways for a lot of the vulnerabilities that are being used today. Also, make sure you patch your security software. Enable those advanced detection capabilities. Look and talk to your vendor about utilizing and supporting behavior monitoring, artificial intelligence, machine learning in those systems. Look at protecting your systems from the gateway all the way down to the endpoint. Disable PowerShell unless absolutely needed. And secure it if needed. But again, during this crisis, if you can disable PowerShell, do so for a short period of time until we're through this crisis. Securely use system components and administrative tools. So again, restrict and limit exposure by granting end users enough access or privileges to accomplish a task or run an application. Definitely talk to and look at your administrator credentials, administrator accounts. How can you secure those accounts much more effectively? Can you enable 2-factor authentication? If you can, do so immediately. Make sure that those accounts are protected and they can't be compromised. Also, there are cases right now we're seeing where the actors get access to a server and then they will deploy through a shared file sharing folder onto systems. They don't even run the ransomware on those systems. They're running it through the file share. So look at potentially consider blocking access to those ports that enable file sharing, again, for a short period of time until we're through this, unless you can do it permanently. And then last but not least, cultivate that security aware culture. Recall that human error that we talked about earlier. Train your employees to look for phishing emails. Let them know that right now they are probably going to be targeted by this Ryuk group and by some of the other ransomware actor groups, because that's their initial way of getting into your network. So make sure they can recognize spam. Make sure that they can alert you as in IT if they suspect a phishing email. Make sure that they can contact you and send that on to be analyzed by yourselves. So that's all I had today. Hopefully this helps. If you need help, please contact us. We'd be happy to talk to you, and we can certainly help you with your ransomware needs. So thanks everybody for today. Have a good day, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.